All right, so part two, I ran out of space on my phone, so I had to delete all these videos, so pardon me. All right, but let's go back to this. The increasing supply is going to drop the price, which is going to swamp these two things, which keep a lower barrier to entry, or keep the prices up a little bit, the lower barrier to entry with easy money, essentially. And easy money both ways. Low interest rates and low barrier to entry are easy money. But you're going to have this enormous supply coming down the pike. And it's going to be even interesting, too, because I guarantee the supply will be on bigger and bigger houses. I mean, some of these people are buying houses. I mean, I look at some of my neighbors, man, just two people, and they're in a 7,000, well, probably not 7,000, probably, 4,000 square foot home. I mean, at some point, they're going to get 80 years old and say, why do we need this house? And they're going to put it on the market. And a lot of people are going to do that. And when that happens, you're going to have this enormous supply. Now, the problem is that the cash flow, the people who can afford the house, the demand is still dropping. The people with the cash flow who can afford it, most of my generation, I guess, I don't even know what, baby bust generation, I guess. We already are in our homes probably. Most of us are already in our homes. And that's a concern for us because the dropping real estate prices because the baby boomers are selling is going to have an effect on your ability to sell your house when you're trying to downsize as well. I think about this a lot actually, and it's a frightening concept because we're all sitting here thinking, I'll just sell my house, take out my equity, and go buy another house for cheaper and have no mortgage. Well, that's great so long as you can sell the house and take out equity. But let's just say if a $300,000 home that you owe $200,000 on it, it could easily drop to $250,000. You know what I'm saying? So after then you got $50,000, and net of commissions, you got $30,000. I mean, what if it dropped more? I mean, Japan, look at I just like this guy's watching too. He goes, call anyone in Japan for the last 20, 30 years and ask them what do real estate prices do? And that's frightening. And so you better be building up some equity for sure, because if you don't have any equity and you're trying to sell your house in order to downsize, you're going to have to find a buyer, and the buyers are dwindling as we speak. And again, very few people are having bigger families. Like I have a considered big family of 4 kids. That's not that big in the old days, but it's big now. Very few people are going to be able to afford a house as big as mine, and there are even less demand for that because there's just not that many people with kids. Now they might say, I need a place to put grandma or something like that. That would be different, and maybe you can consolidate grandma's money. But I think that would be the exception, not the rule. And even if they were to do that, you still have grandma selling a house, and then you got you and grandma combining forces in one house. You see what I'm saying? So it's a net. You got one house being sold, and one house is not being. There's no demand for the second house to replace that one being sold because you're already in it. If that makes sense. So the way I look at this is, I say for us and our generation, that right there. With this coming, this is coming. I mean, there's just no getting around it. It's going to come. It's going to drop real estate prices significantly. And there just aren't that many buyers who can afford it. There just aren't that many buyers who have larger families. There just aren't that many buyers who can even just have the desire to get in a bigger house that costs more for property tax or utility bills and all that because they're already strapped cash flow. And so you can see where this is going. And this, I'm kind of talking to myself. I'm thinking about this. You got a big house. You got to offload it before this right here happens. This is going to happen. Well, you better get out from under there. And like me, I got some equity here, but let's just say the real estate prices. We'll say my house is $500,000, and I owe $350,000, and the real estate prices go 25% down. Now my house is $375,000, and I was expecting that $200,000 or $150,000 of equity to buy, a 3-bed, 2-bath house, and way up in the country someplace. Well, what do you do? And on top of that, you think about it too, what if you're in a job that gets canned and now you're like, well, just sell our house and downsize. What if you can't? What if you can't sell the house because there's no buyers, or the buyers who are doing it are lowballing you so much, I can't do that. I mean, we saw this in 2008. Don't think we've addressed this. We have. The big picture is the changing demographics. So anyway, this is where renting comes in, because what do you think happens to rent when the supply of houses goes through the roof? What do you think happens to rents? Think rents go up or go down? Well, they go down. They go down to keep up with the cost of buying a home, because rents are always competing against your ability to buy a house. All right, so rent, if you can afford a house at $1,500 a month, well, that's your payment. So you can rent for $1,200 a month because you don't own it and you don't have to pay property tax. So if you can afford that, then the rents are going to be right around there. But rents aren't going to be way above the price of your ability to own a home, unless we have significant lack of demand. If we have significant lack of demand for buying a home, this is going to make this even worse. It's going to make it even worse because they're just going to drop prices like we saw in 2007 and 8. I just got to get out of it from under for anything. And so that could be the case where rents are so much higher that the price of these things are just dropping like a brick in water. Well, if you're already renting, you're loving that. You say, man, I could go buy that Lake Lanier property for freaking 30 cents on the dollar and get out of my rent, which is staying high. And now I've actually bought a property and reduced my cash flow. Man. So I guess the moral of this story, you've got to, and I don't think you should be looking at real estate appreciating like some people do on this YouTube. Like you can, where is the buyers going to come from? And if we look what happened in Vancouver in Canada, when they got rid of the Chinese market because the Chinese were going up and buying, 20% of the properties, the price of the real estate just fell because there wasn't enough buyers. And if there's not enough buyers, well, I just said this. I said in the video just a second ago. If there's not enough buyers, there's not enough demand, the price drops. If there's not enough demand, the price drops. And on top of that, the supply is increasing. The price drops, I don't even know what's called exponentially. If it's exponential when it goes down. If you're not thinking this through, I think you need to. Look, I don't have any answers. I just know who will be better served if they are able, whoever's nimble. And to be nimble, you don't want to have a huge mortgage over your head, and you certainly don't want to be tied down to your job with a big mortgage in your head, over your head. That's bad. I'm not saying rent, because at the end of the day, I've always said this, going to retirement with no rent or a mortgage is the way to go. But man, now might be the time to really start downsizing before this happens. And look, I'm not trying to be a Nurse Nelly. I'm not saying sell your stocks. I'm just saying think this through. Think this through. I mean, look, they can open up the freaking, what's her name, Elizabeth Warren, all these guys want to open up the border for just anyone. Are these people coming here going to be able to buy your house? No. Are these people going to come here and tax the system? Yes. I mean, if they're going to give health care to legal immigrants, who's going to pay for that? Which is going to reduce the cash flow for American citizens to buy your house. I think you really need to start looking at either renting or really getting payment on your freaking equity, building up your equity, reducing your mortgage, because you don't want to be stuck. I mean, we just went through this 10 years ago, and I think that was only the tip of the iceberg. I really do. This isn't to say, oh my goodness, go buy gold or the world's falling. Reality says demand and supply. As demand increases, the prices go up. As demand falls, the price goes down. Demand is falling just by demographics, and supply is going to increase. Thus, prices are going to drop. And when they drop, and you're me, Josh, trying to get kid. I got one kid out. We got 3 yet to go, and I'm like, hopefully I can sell this before the bottom falls out, because it's gonna. Again, that doesn't mean you're going broke. It just means what was 300 or 500 easily to lose 25% value easily. But no one thinks like that. They're like, real estate always adjusts for inflation. That's what I said. It historically has, but we've never seen demographics like this. And when you factor in, what the median home was back in the 50s, where you could buy it with 1 year income, compared to what it is now, everything looks bad for long-term home ownership if you're taking max debt to get there. It just does. Now, I'll put a link in the show notes to these guys' videos. I'm a fan. I really am. They're being able to articulate, I think, probably better than I can. That's what I was saying. So also, I just got to be careful. So this guy was talking specifically about his dad in Salem. Oh, I guess I erased it. His dad in Salem, Oregon. The problem with that is that we're taking an anecdotal evidence and we're applying it to the median, and you can't do that. So I thought the story made sense, absolutely. And the story is always good to get you thinking, which is what got me thinking. But then I said, wait a second, because we don't know if $9,600 was a lot of money back then or not. We just don't know. I mean, $9,600, because he was looking at the guy's tax returns in 1955. And so he's like, his tax returns in 1955 are $9,600 is his income he paid tax on. but that, okay, that may or may not mean anything relative to today. I don't know, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Say, well, this guy was making $9,600. The price of the house in Salem, Oregon, was $8,500. Thus, I can extrapolate what the average person or in America is doing. You can't, because that may or may not be. Salem, Oregon might be unique. This guy's income might be unique. I don't know. But when we look at median income versus median housing costs in the United States, you can go state by state on the Census Bureau data for sure. Then you say, that's pretty close. I mean, median income before tax, I mean, this guy was probably making a little bit more than the average in terms of the net of taxes, but it was pretty close. It wasn't quite one for one income net of tax to buy a home, but it was 80%, and so it just took a year and maybe 2-3 months of work, and you could buy a full-fledged home. Can't do that anymore, man. In fact, you can't even buy a single wide hardly today for the median income, and you think, but no one wants to live in a single wide, at least, middle class America who grew up in with the baby boomers as their parents. We want to live in the freaking Taj Mahal right out the gate. And be prepared. That's all I got to say. All right, we'll see you next time.